My take, since you asked, completely disappointed because it's unnecessary and, if you ask me, for lack of a better expression, irresponsible. Nothing but a manifestation of neo-imperialist thinking. These travel bans, if I can be very direct, are very paternalizing and very divisive, and they undermine our belief systems in multilateralism. They question our confidence in proclaimed addiction to principles of human rights. And so, if you were to look at it deeply, and it's not that the world is lacking sufficient knowledge to know how ridiculous these travel bans are, it's just that we are weak, we are weaker, we are poor, we are poorer, and we are unable to respond in equal measure. And I find it completely unacceptable. It's inhumane, it's demeaning, it's degrading, and gosh, you've got to find out who your true friends are.
Leaders in southern Africa are fiercely criticizing regional travel bans imposed by some of the world's wealthiest countries in response to the Omicron variant. The president of Malawi straight up calling it Afrophobia, Namibia blasting the move as unacceptable and discriminatory, and South Africa describing the measures as misdirected and draconian. The Omicron variant was initially detected last week in Botswana and then South Africa. Botswana says the new strain was first identified in 4 foreign diplomats visiting the country, but they haven't yet said where those diplomats came from. The WHO immediately warned against knee-jerk responses, and the UN has likened the travel bans to global apartheid. But the world isn't listening. Dozens of countries have imposed restrictions targeted southern Africa, including some African nations as well. The financial fallout and reputational damage is something the region is already struggling with. Botswana's president is slamming the ban as hastily made, unfair and unjustified. His nation's economy, which relies heavily on tourism, is expected to take a major hit. Time now for the exchange and my conversation with the president of Botswana, who is calling on Western nations to reconsider their travel bans. Here is how he described the restrictions when I spoke to him earlier.
My take, since you asked, completely disappointed because it's unnecessary and, if you ask me, for lack of a better expression, irresponsible.
So we know that the Omicron variant was detected in Botswana in 4 diplomats who had traveled into Botswana from elsewhere on November 7th. They ended up leaving on November 11th. Where did those diplomats come from?
The diplomats came from a number of countries, the countries of origin, the countries of workstation, and they passed through a number of countries to get to Botswana. And to be honest, in terms of the science, because I've just been to see the genome sequencing results, it really doesn't matter. It is important for the scientists to keep that as privileged as possible because investigations are ongoing. And what we really don't want to do is to stigmatize and expose anyone to abuse.
That is certainly very noble. However, we do know that the Omicron variant was present in Europe at least a week before South Africa alerted the rest of the world about it. It was present in Europe at least a week before. So even if you don't tell us which specific countries they came from, can you at least tell us what region? Did these 4 diplomats come from Europe?
Yes, some had been to Europe and some had been elsewhere. Listen, what I've established, based on what the scientists
So some of them had actually, I'm sorry, sir, so some of them had actually come from Europe into Botswana on November 7th?
Indeed.
Okay.
Now, what I've established, based on what the scientists have been able to demonstrate to me, is that a number of scientists around the world had been working on the genome sequencing of this particular variant before they had deposited their findings to the committee that names as such. And it's because in being thorough with their work, they took their time to establish and verify what they saw. And so much as we were the first to deposit this, which now became a virus of concern, many other countries have been working on this virus longer than we had.
Right. So just going back to where these diplomats originated from, have you had conversations with the governments of the European countries from which these diplomats originated from to alert them that there is a possibility, we don't know for sure, that there is a possibility that the Omicron variant that you detected may have originated in their countries? Have you had that discussion?
Well, we're still doing the scientific work, Zain, because from what I've been advised, it would seem the very creation of this new virus is as a result of interventions from a diversity of sources. So it's like things are picked up along the way. And when mutations take place, because there are multiple mutations, then this particular virus comes up. So the scientists are still unable to tell the true source. They're able to tell from tracing the trail where some of these may have picked up additional bits and pieces to result in this. And obviously they're collaborating with their peers in those countries to find out if they have exactly the same match.
Malawi's president, Lazarus Chakwera, as you know, has been very vocal about his opinions on these travel bans. He's called it Afrophobia. South Africa's president has said that it is certainly discriminatory. I mean, when you and I are talking now and you're giving me more context and you're alerting me to the fact that these diplomats who may have, obviously we don't know for sure, may have brought in the Omicron variant into Botswana, some of them originated in Europe. I mean, what do you make, just that context, what do you make of these travel bans in light of that context?
You know, even if they didn't originate in Europe, I make no sense of these travel bans. These travel bans, if I were to be more candid, are nothing but a manifestation of neo-imperialist thinking. These travel bans, if I can be very direct, are very paternalizing and very divisive. And they undermine our belief systems in multilateralism. They question our confidence in proclaimed addiction to principles of human rights. And so, if you were to look at it deeply, and it's not that the world is lacking sufficient knowledge to know how ridiculous these travel bans are, it's just that we are weak, we are weaker, we are poor, we are poorer, and we are unable to respond in equal measure. And I find it completely unacceptable. It's inhumane, it's demeaning, it's degrading, and gosh, you've got to find out who your true friends are.
So what do you think would have been the better way for Western governments to go about this? If imposing travel bans is the wrong way to go about it, obviously when a new variant is detected and alerted, there's so much fear around that, especially given what the world has been through over the past year. What would have been the better thing for Western governments or, I guess the international community as a whole to do in response to this?
Well, last thing to do is to impose a travel ban. Of course, be much stricter in your attention to the details of protocols and ensure and require people to stick to those. Study this more, collaborate more, but more than anything else, let's ask ourselves the question, if vaccines had been distributed in manners that we long asked about,